Hey guys, what up? I thought I'd tell you a story while I'm driving. I had my necklaces and my earrings on because of that song I did, but I took them off since I'm driving. I'm allergic to metal, so might as well wait till I'm hanging out with you guys to actually wear my pretty stuff. Anywho, did I ever tell you guys the story of how I actually got my last name Allen? Like, I've been married a bunch of times, so like my last name is Wright at the moment, but like that's just because I thought it was kind of cool because Robin Wright sounds cool. And then it's funny because even when I'm wrong, I'm right. Anyway, I kind of stole that from Matt, but that's okay. I'm sure you don't mind. And make it more like borrowing than stealing. Anyway. I just didn't feel like changing everything to go back to my other last name again. Plus, it's not really what my last name would have been anyway. It would have been Jerkowski. So here's the cool fucking shit. My dad's dad, my grandpa, Gene, originally his last name was Jerkowski, and he came here from Poland, so that side is full Polish. So I guess does that make me half Polish or a quarter, because it's my dad? I don't know, whatever that makes me. Anyway, he was undercover in the FBI, and they needed an easier to say last name than Jerkowski, and then something that sounded American and just a good undercover name, so Allen. And then my dad and his brothers were born, and so they just they've adapted the Allen and didn't go to Jerkowski.
There's construction ahead.
And then my brother and me were born, and so we were Allens also. And we kind of kept going with the family business. Anyway, I think it's cool that, you know, Jesus used to be undercover, and he'd use songs and symbols and signs to try to teach the people, and then, you know, do it all incognito under the Romans and later the Nazis. And that's how they spoke to each other, this secret language of songs and signs, and, you know, people who are clever see it. But yeah, so pretty cool. Like, I met him a couple times. I don't really have a ton of memories. I heard he used to like be really abusive, and like I don't know how much of that part's true or not, but I did get confirmed about the FBI stuff, and from another family member, and then just a few months ago. Like some other stuff too. My grandma Polly, who was my dad's grandma, and then she was my great grandma, but dad's mom passed away when he was 8, and so he only had his dad, and his grandma ended up adopting him. She was the very first person ever in Kentucky to win full custody from a blood parent. And so she took him and his brother and raised them. And so he called her mom, and I called her grandma, even though it was his grandma, my great grandma. She is good people. But anyway, so that's some fun, interesting stuff about me. And then my other grandpa on my mom's side was a Reverend Lutheran pastor, and I got to go visit him up in Alaska. When I was born, they were up in Alaska still. And so I got to go up there. I even got to see the Northern Lights when they were all doing their crazy dances with the pretty colors and shit. That was cool. And then, like, the sun doesn't set up there, so that's pretty cool. My brother and me would get away with staying up late. But anywho, then when he moved down to Spokane, my cousin Colin and me flew up in an airplane. I think I was like 8 or something. I was less than 10 for sure. And then we went in their RV with them and drove from there through Canada down to Washington to Spokane. So it was really cool. We spent 2 weeks, and we got to go all through Canada, got to go to the hot springs, and we got to experience, like, we only had our money, so we got to like trade it in and see how that works. It was neat. It was super cool. And then once Grandpa got to Spokane, they didn't move right to Spokane. They kept going to places all around Spokane because my grandpa, he'd feel the call, and he would just like know where to go. He would just feel it. He wouldn't know exactly what was going to happen. He would just drive there. He'd freaking just, like, when Mom and her sister were kids, he would just, like, pack them up and put everybody in the car and be like, all right, here we go. Take grandma, and they would get to a new town, and sure enough, there'd be a church. And with Lutherans, there's always a house that goes with the church, and whoever the pastor is gets to live in that house. So he'd always get a house, and then he would do the services, and the way he'd do it is he would just all week long, he'd feel his intuition and go through the Bible, and then like interactions with people throughout the week that like lined up with what he was wanting to teach that week, and then he'd make a sermon out of it. And it was really cool because I got to see how he did it, and I'd get to go with him and learned a whole bunch of stuff. Like, I never actually went and did seminary like he did, but I experienced a ton of stuff that he taught me and showed me and stuff. It was really cool. And then grandma, she was like his sidekick through everything. Like, she did all the stuff he didn't do pretty much. She did all the Sunday school stuff, and then like she would find the people to help with that, and they would just go church to church, and as soon as they would get one healed, it'd be time to go. And so he'd pick up and go. And so I'd go, they were in Soap Lake for a while. I went there quite a few times and stayed with them. And then they went to Potlatch. Oh man, that was a cool one. I think that was Idaho. And I went and stayed with him off and on. I'd bring my guinea pigs out with me. He got mad at me because there'd always be poop on the floor for the guinea pigs. I wasn't very good at keeping their cages clean. I was a little kid. Anyway, that was one of the coolest places because when he went there ended up being a Lutheran church and a Presbyterian church at the same time that needed pastors. And so he got them united together and worked it out that they would do a Lutheran Sunday one Sunday, and then everybody, like the Presbyterian, everybody would come to that one. They'd do it as a Lutheran service. And then the next Sunday, they would go to the Presbyterian one, and he would do a Presbyterian service. And the Lutherans would come there, and he got them to like combine together and stuff. And then like, I don't know if they ended up making like one church or if they ended up getting two different pastors, but they all stayed friends. But he was in the newspaper for it and stuff. And it was cool because I got to be around during that. The time I went was the time they were doing it at the Lutheran service. So I went to that one. I didn't go to the Presbyterian one, although that would have been fun to be able to experience both of them. But yeah, so like my grandpa was cool because like he did all the different religions. He understood that there is not just one specific religion that tells everything. It's every single one has to work together. And then there's more than that. Like, nobody's got it completely right. You know, everybody like grabs some stuff, says this is it, and then they only want to do that. And it's like, come on guys. So anywho, I had a ton of like experience doing that with him all for a long time. And then his last 2 years of life, I actually was his caregiver, and I would take him to all sorts of appointments. He had diabetes really bad, like a bunch of stuff, but like with the diabetes, his legs were just, oh my gosh, they were just like pure pain and like pussy, and oh my gosh, like I felt so bad for him. We'd have to go once a week and have the wraps taken off and put new ones on. And so his favorite thing was milkshakes, but like he's diabetic, so he wasn't supposed to have them. But it's like, you know what? He's not gonna survive much longer anyway. He's dealing with a shit ton of pain. So every time after we do those, I'd take him to McDonald's and we'd get him a strawberry milkshake because that was his favorite. I was like, fuck you guys, I'm getting him a milkshake. So anywho, and then, you know, we'd be good for the rest of the week or whatever, and I'd help him with stuff. And then his, got a truck behind me on my asshole. Look at this guy. He just pulled right up, and now he's like right on my butt. It's only 65. I'm going almost 80. Calm down, dude. Calm down. Woo! Oh, now he's getting closer. Oh no, what am I gonna do? Oh, now he's gonna whip around me. Oh, look at him. Oh, so scary. Oh, look at him, he almost hit me. Somebody's gonna get that guy. Whatever, dude. Anyway. Oh, now he's doing it to the person in front of me. Oh, that guy looks so scared. It's gonna be funny when that guy gets pulled over. Anyway. So yeah, it was kind of a bummer. His last week, he was in a medical-induced coma, and his very last day before they put him in the coma, I stayed with him all night, and he had grand mal seizures and just threw up, and he would have choked and died, but I kept grabbing the suction off the wall, and I'd suction his throat and save him, and like he would just look at me with his eyes, and like I didn't know what else to do to help him. And then I stayed awake as long as I could. And then when Mom and Aunt C got back, they they helped him, and I went home so I could sleep. And while I was sleeping was when everything was decided to put him in the medical induced coma, and I never saw him again. I never got to talk to him again. I would go stay.
There's construction ahead.
All week. I'd go as much as I could, but I was working at Petco. Was I working at Petco? No, I think I was taking care of Paula at that time. Yeah, I was taking care of Paula. And so I still had to like go take care of my people, and it was, yeah. And then his very, very last day, when they took all the, they kept doing experiments on him all the whole week. Like they tricked Grandma into keeping him on life support. He had it in his will, and it was so very much known that he wanted the DNR. He was do not resuscitate. He did not want to be on life support. And they tricked her. And then once they're on it, they're like, oh, we can't legally take them off. It has to be for this certain amount of time. And like all this bullshit. And then they did experiments on him. It was disgusting. Like, I've got the proof. Anyway, they said he was brain dead. And so we got the whole family together for when they were going to pull the stuff out, because they said he wouldn't be able to keep breathing on his own and would pass away right away. And so we had the whole family around us, and I was at the very end of his bed. Mom was, at least from my perspective, was on his right, and then Essie on his left. From his perspective, that's opposite. But anyway, when they took it out, he freaking shot straight up like a vampire, and his eyes flung open, and he stared right at me into my soul. Like, it felt like he was giving me all his downloads of all the information, and like I can like feel all of his like what he did beforehand and stuff. Like, it's crazy. And like he talks to me and shit and helps me out, which I know is true because I wouldn't be alive still, because he gets me out of some crazy situations. Anyway, Mom was talking to him and had him look at her, and then she showed him a picture of my brother because he couldn't make it. And then she said, look over at Aunt C. And so he turned and looked at her. And then Mom said, it's okay, Dad, you close your eyes and go back to sleep. And so he did, and he laid down, and then he didn't pass away. It was over 24 hours. And so they ended up, he was supposed to have hospice care, but they like gave his care away or some bullshit, whatever. And so he went up to a different floor, and they didn't have enough staff or anything. No one could take care of him. It's a dying person who needs constant care. And so I did it. And what you got to do is you keep their lips moist, and you keep turning them so they don't get uncomfortable because they can't do it themselves. And you check, like, just so much stuff. So I did all that. And then after he passed away, I helped clean him up and stuff. And there's some crazy experiences. It really messed me up for a while. Like, I had some pretty bad PTSD and trauma from that. But like, now it's like, it's been so long, and I've told it so much, and I've worked through it. Plus, he's not dead to me. He talks to me all the freaking time. So it's like, And like, I wouldn't like not do it. Like, like if I could go back again, like I would never not do it. Like, I'm glad I got to help him. I wish that I could have helped Grandma more after, because she deserved the same care too. But like, I was just so messed up, and like, that was just the hardest thing I ever saw, losing my best friend like that, that like, I just couldn't do it more. So like, I still helped Grandma as much as I could, but like, man, she had a crappy time too. Like, oh my gosh. So from all that though, like, hopefully good comes from that, because, Grandma did a lot of, like, she made all the cool stuff for the churches that were like the things you like hang up on the walls. And then she would like put projects together for the kids for Sunday school, and then for what's it called? Like church camp. They would do summer camp. That's the thing. She'd help put those together, and like just a bunch of stuff. She was really cool. Freaking Betty Ledbetter. Her maiden name was Wiggins. But anywho, so there's a little bit of information about my awesome family. If anybody has questions, let me know, because I love talking about all this kind of stuff. And then like the stuff I learned from Grandpa, I've like taken further and gone and just explored myself. So like I said, I haven't actually done seminar, but I have like gone into the mountains and found my own gurus. So I don't know if Grandpa ever did it that way or not, but I just did it a different way, I guess. But anyway, much love, guys, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.